This time on Fifth Gear, we find out if the throbbing American muscle of the new Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Camaro is enough to threaten Europe's top performance machines, but for a fraction of the cost. The team find out if the new Volvo V60 can rival the comfort and drive quality of premium brands such as BMW and Mercedes. It certainly seemed to relax me.
It's graceful. That's a nice word.
Karun is on the track to find out if the class-leading Porsche Cayman could be under threat from a coupe made by BMW.
It is so beautifully balanced.
Jimmy gives Vauxhall's great little hot hatch, the Corsa VXR, even more grunt by fitting an even bigger turbo.
It's got some teeth in its bite now.
And Vicky looks at 3 second-hand muscle cars, offering similar thrills to the machines Tiff and I are driving, but for a quarter of the price.
Welcome to Fifth Gear. Now, if you stand on any busy UK street, you're bound to see cars from just about every corner of the globe.
With one notable exception, the good old US of A. Only China, Japan and Germany make more passenger cars than them, and yet you hardly ever see American motors on our roads.
So it seems Uncle Sam isn't that keen on sending his cars across the pond. So if you want one, you're gonna have to import it yourself or go through one of those specialist independents.
However, maybe all that is about to change. Take these two, for example. This is the iconic Ford Mustang. In this 2018 V8 GT form, its 5-litre engine puts out 450 horsepower and gets it to 62 miles an hour in 4.6 seconds.
And this is the equally awesome Chevrolet Camaro V8. It has a 6-litre engine, which develops 453 horsepower and hits 62 in 4.4 seconds.
Those statistics are bordering on supercar territory, rivaling cars like the Porsche 911 Carrera. And the good news is that both of these muscle cars are now officially imported into the UK, complete with full manufacturer warranties. But here's the real headline. The Mustang will set you back just £42,000.
While the Camaro is even cheaper at 39 grand.
Now, to put that into context, a closely powered BMW M4 would cost 20 grand more.
There's just one problem. American motors are generally designed for endless straight roads, so historically don't have the suspension setups to deal with British bends.
Which is why we're here at Rockingham, to find out, finally, if cars from over there can cut the mustard over here.
We've got 3 torturous tests lined up, and not surprisingly, we're going to kick off with a bit of cornering.
We've set up this tight slalom course, followed by these 2 sweeping bends to get the measure of the cars in slow and fast corners.
Hit it! It's all on the stopwatch, and Tiff's saddled up the Mustang.
This Mustang has just had a facelift and it's got an angrier external styling and revised interior. But what I want to know is what it's like to drive, because the facelift has also brought an extra 34 horsepower. But I think it's going to need all the help it can get to get 1,743 kilos through a slalom.
3, 2, 1, hit it!
Oh, I nearly stalled. I nearly stalled. A few more revs.
Oh, he's biting it off.
Now we're getting there. Nip it through in a 3rd gear, just to touch the brakes, get on that throttle, Tiff, get onto its understeer a bit wide, I'm out. Could be a 15.
That could be a 15, you reckon?
That could be a 15. That could be a 15.
It's a 16.7. Through the middle section, it looks spicy.
Although my estimate was wrong, the Mustang still handled surprisingly well. Mind you, this car does come with Ford's additional £1,600 Magna Ride adaptive suspension package.
So, like Tiff, my Camaro has been updated for 2018. In fact, it's 28% stiffer, But unlike the Ford, it doesn't have the optional adaptive damping control.
And unlike the Mustang, my Chevy only comes in left-hand drive, which is an obvious consideration for British roads. But at least, like Tiff, I've got a manual gearbox to play with, and crucially, I'm 100 kilograms lighter, which could make a big difference in this test where change of direction is so critical.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, that's not the best start ever. Pretty good through the slalom. This is the corner I need to get right.
Oh, he's getting aggressive. He's getting aggressive.
Wow, a bit of understeer. But I think that's probably enough.
0.23 slower than the Mustang.
I simply don't believe that. I don't believe it.
I thought you bottled it a bit here.
No, I thought it was quicker there.
Close, though.
It is close. I mean, there's nothing in it, is there?
Well, that's one up
Interesting.
to the Ford Mustang.
Yeah, interesting.
Could be my adaptive damping, so you haven't got Magna Ride, have you?
Join us later when we subject our cars to a test of get up and go in the shape of a good old-fashioned drag race. Too much wheel spinning.
Now we're off for a fifth gear team test, and joining us this time is our resident engine nut, Jimmy DeVille.
The car that the team tested today was a Volvo V60 D4. Volvo is renowned for producing cars that are not only safe, but also comfortable and well made. However, does their new V60 estate now have the style and luxury to compete with premium rivals like BMW's 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class? Prices start at 32 grand, but we have the mid-spec D4 Momentum Pro. Volvo V60 D4. It's a classy piece of work.
It's a big thing, isn't it? Big unit.
They're all getting big.
First impression was it just wasn't that exciting to look at for me.
But solid and safe, but does that wow you?
I'd probably spec it in a slightly more interesting colour.
This is just sensible styling.
Well, it's like Scandinavian furniture. I like the styling. Just minimalistic
Quietly
and
cool. Look at the Thor's hammer headlights. We've seen them in the
what,
XC90.
the what?
Thor's hammer headlights.
What on earth are you talking
That is
about?
the hammer of Thor.
Oh, Thor!
see.
I thought you said 4.
It says Volvo in all of the headlights.
It's got some nice little touches.
Oh, your neighbour's going to see that when they open the curtains, aren't they?
I mean, Tiff was particularly grumpy today, I have to say.
Nice little touches.
Your neighbours is going to be jealous that you're driving a quality bit of kit.
Particularly grumpy.
It's supposed to have class-leading boot space.
I got in the boot and we found all sorts of switches to make seats go forward.
Whoa!
That was quite exciting inside.
Hold on.
There is only one thing that really smacked me around the chops that I didn't like about this Volvo, and that's in the boot.
What on earth is that for?
There's an extra flap that comes up if you've only got a little bit of shopping.
Do you know what? That's a good idea, isn't
It's a really good idea.
They've not put carpet on the underside. Come on, Volvo, it's all about the detail. You know that, I don't need to tell you that.
Oh, it's a festival of soft to the touch leather in here. Oh.
Loved the styling of the interior. That got me more excited.
I love that centre console.
I like the infographics and the way it all works.
Just a symphony of technology.
A rimless mirror.
Oh, yes.
Doesn't that look nice?
Yeah.
It's a classy feel. The materials are nice inside.
And the seat's so damn comfortable. So adjustable.
Is just textbook, well-appointed, safe Volvo. It's exactly what they say they're gonna do, done exactly how they say they're gonna do it.
So, in terms of styling, quality and finish, the V60 was certainly shaping up as a premium family estate. But would it be as pleasing to drive on the open road, where it's designed to ferry families in comfort? When we took it out on the road, I really liked it. You can tell this is sort of calibrated for your motorway munching miles. In fact, the V60 seems to transport you to another world of calmness and serenity. It's graceful.
That's a nice word.
8-speed automatic, no paddles, just stick it in D and cruise, chat.
Look at those nice flowers on the right.
Ooh, very nice indeed.
Sunflowers. The ambience of the car is good.
I'm buying into the Scandinavian tranquility. But it appeared to be a drive of two halves.
Sitting in the back with Jason, after a while, we both started saying, oh, this ride quality isn't very good.
Jarring.
Because the front doesn't feel that. At the front, I found that it was kind of quite soft and a bit lollopy.
I still think it rides firm in the back.
Do you?
Yeah.
I was a bit disappointed, actually. You could feel everything in the road. And I had a bit of a sore, stiff back, and so did Tiff, actually.
So I think there was a bit of disagreement over whether it was deemed to be comfortable enough for a family-orientated Volvo.
It does create a nice, comfy, sort of huggy space.
Huggy space, love that. So we generally agreed that this new Volvo is classy, well-equipped and well-made, though it seems that the front passengers enjoyed a more restful ride than those in the rear. On to the scores.
This isn't the most exciting car, but what it is extremely well executed. So for that, I'm going to give it a 6.
Nice experience, nice to be in. You'd be really happy in a long drive. I like it. I'm going to score it a 7.
Nothing really to excite, but nothing really to criticise. Volvo V60 gets 6.
It is handsome, it is practical, and crucially for me, it's unpretentious. I give it that, which is an 8. Which gives the Volvo V60 a team test score of 27 out of 40.
After the break, Carone's track-bound to find out if the BMW M2 can possibly steal the Porsche Cayman's King of Coupes crown.
I quite like the little growl that you get when you put the hammer down.
And Vicky drives 3 second-hand muscle cars that offer a giant slice of American pie, but for just 10 grand a piece.
Even for me, this is a tad too noisy.
Now it's time to head off to our Anglesey track for a 5th gear shootout, where we put 2 like-minded cars up against each other to find out which is quickest. Assisting us with driving duties this time is our honorary 5th gear team member and ex-Formula 1 driver, Karun Chanduk.
Today we've got 2 German coupes for those who want top-level performance in a top-quality package. This is the Porsche 718 Cayman GTS. The Cayman's mid-mounted flat-6 engine and rear-wheel drive formula made it the 50 grand coupe to beat over the last decade. This new version has lost 2 cylinders, but it's gained a turbo, plus another 10 grand, so it now costs nearly £60,000. Up against it is the BMW M2. Any Beamer with an M badge is worth paying attention to. And with 6 cylinders plus a turbo, the M2 is slightly more powerful and slightly quicker to 62 than the Cayman. At 47 grand, it's also £13,000 cheaper. Up first, it's the Porsche.
When I read a few reviews coming into here, one of the first things that people talked about was how the car didn't really sound particularly great. Now, bearing in mind, it is a 4-cylinder, 2.5-litre engine. It's going to sound like a 4-cylinder. I quite like the little growl that you get when you put the hammer down.
So, contrary to some people's views, I'm okay with the sound the car makes. But more importantly, how does the 718 Cayman go?
Right, let's see what it's like on a time lapse. Winding it up now into the first corner. Now, under braking for turn 2. It is brilliant. I'm braking so deep and carrying the speed in. And the front end just tucks in.
However, part of the reason that I can brake so late is down to the optional £5,000 ceramic composite brakes fitted to this car.
This car is a baby 911. It is confidence-inspiring. I feel I could drive it all day long and not end up in the grass. That perfect weight distribution because of where the engine's placed makes it so nimble. Get on the power and the car goes exactly where you want it to go. Through the corkscrew now, under braking, changing direction. Ride quality is very good across the curbs. Now the last corner, whoa, get the power down and across the line.
The Cayman GTS crosses the line in 1 minute 16.47 seconds. Time for the BMW.
This car is a lot cheaper than that Cayman I just drove.
It also has a touch more horsepower and 2 extra seats, but it's not all good news.
It's 120 kilos heavier than the Porsche, so really in terms of power to weight, it's not very good for the BMW.
However, BMW's engineers have produced a brilliant chassis.
Despite the weight of the engine being at the front, it is so beautifully balanced.
But in places, a bit of caution is called for.
When you're coming out of the medium slow speed corners, you've got to be a little bit gentle with the power because you do tend to spin up the inside wheel. Let's have a look though at what it's like on a time lap. And you're really able to get on the power nice and early, but under braking, it just doesn't allow you to stop as quickly. Bang on the power. The front tucks in nicely.
At the first checkpoint, the BMW is down by 0.7 of a second.
In the long, faster corners, you have got less understeer in the BMW. It allows you to carry the speed. Now, the braking zone. This is where I think the Porsche was amazing. A little bit too lively, and I've had to brake quite a bit earlier just to give me the confidence to turn in. And on the way out, it does that.
And by the second checkpoint, the M2 has fallen 1.4 seconds behind.
Into the corkscrew, and the short wheelbase allows the front end to change direction beautifully well. And now to the last corner. Across the line.
The M2 crosses the line in 1 minute 18.51 seconds, a full 2 seconds behind the Porsche. So, the Cayman is still the sporty coupe to beat. Its mid-engine layout, brilliant chassis, and phenomenal carbon ceramic brakes defeated the BMW on just about every level. Just remember though, you'll need 30% more money to gain those 2 extra seconds.
Earlier in the show, Jason and Tiff were having some fun in a couple of US muscle cars. Good value they may be. However, each will set you back around £40,000.
What if I said you could buy into the American dream for £10,000?
All these vehicles have been privately imported and each now costs a quarter of the price of the new cars. The Ford Mustang, the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, and the Chevrolet Corvette C5.
In total, we have over 800 of the finest American horsepowers. Yeah!
Right then, let's get going.
If you're going to look at American muscle cars, or American cars in general for that matter, then you cannot ignore the iconic Ford Mustang.
This 5th generation Stang was made from 2005 to 2014, and I've got the 210 horsepower V6.
It'll hit 62 miles an hour in 6.4 seconds, which is phenomenally quick for something so big. And it goes on to a very respectable 159 miles an hour. You can get more impressive speeds if you go for the V8, but I'm very happy today with the V6.
And another advantage of the smaller engine is fuel consumption, which can approach 30 mpg if driven carefully.
There's a bit of blobbiness about it, but that's all part of the experience and part of the fun.
So, if you fancy one of these cars, what must you look out for?
The fuel level sending unit can get covered with sulfur compounds from petrol and cause inaccurate fuel gauge readings. So make sure that the one you're buying has got a correct fuel gauge, because a new one will instantly cost you £80 to replace.
And the rubber seals around the doors, bonnet and boot are prone to coming loose. Along with most other parts on the Mustang, these are cheap to replace. However, ignore them and you'll get some embarrassing damp patches that could lead to rust. Next, the Pontiac. Launched in 1993, this fourth version of Pontiac's venerable Trans Am packed 275 horsepower from its 5.7-litre V8.
0 to 62 came up in 6.2 seconds, which is fractionally quicker than the Mustang, and it went on to 160 miles an hour. Even for me, this is a tad too noisy. Needless to say, this is not a standard exhaust system. This is more of a sports car than the Mustang. The suspension is firmer and the body roll is much better controlled here. The seats are incredibly comfortable. I honestly feel as if I've slipped into a whopping great big armchair.
Want a Trans Am? Then keep an eye out for the following.
The engine should be pretty solid, and here's a good tip for you to check. When it's hot, the oil pressure should be between 40 and 60 psi. If it isn't, and there's some blue smoke coming out of the exhaust, then walk away, because you're looking at an engine rebuild pretty soon. Firebird gearboxes are strong, but limited slip diffs aren't. So if you hear a whining sound, then it means that yours is due for an overhaul. Parts are readily available and they're not too expensive.
And finally, the C5 Corvette, which was launched in 1997.
Our first two are poster cars of American muscle machines. But there is one car that is considered by many to be America's finest sports car. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the Corvette. With 345 brake horsepower, the Chevrolet's engine is more powerful than the other two. Yet, this car weighs the same. So its 0 to 62 mile an hour time comes up in 5.5 seconds. And it'll go on to 172. So, what to look out for? Well, with the car sitting so low to the ground, the front air dam on the 5th generation Corvette is known to take some punishment. And General Motors acknowledges this. They call the air dam a wear part, something that wears reasonably quickly. A replacement will cost you £100, and don't forget to wait for the time it takes to come across the Atlantic.
And being a very sporty muscle car, the Corvette has a reputation for suffering body damage generally, so check there's no mismatch in paint colours or other signs of repair. The combined cost of these cars when new, including shipping, was around £90,000. Today you can have them for £30,000, and that is what I call muscle cars on a budget. Which one would I choose? It would absolutely depend on my mood. If I was feeling stylish, I'd go for the Ford. If I wanted performance, I'd take the Corvette. And if I wanted fun, I'd have the Pontiac. It really is a three-way tie, a fifth gear first.
After the break, Mod King Jimmy DeVille takes an already sporty Vauxhall Corsa VXR and gives it even more horsepower by fitting an upgraded turbo.
Come on, VXR.
While Tiff and I resume our Mustang versus Camaro dogfight, we've seen what they can do round the bends, but now we're on muscle car home turf, a good old-fashioned drag race.
Don't try and outrun me.
It's time to rejoin our muscle car dogfight, featuring the Ford Mustang and the Chevrolet Camaro. Two 40-grand machines with 0 to 62 times that rival supercars.
So far, we've subjected the American pair to that most alien of activities, going round bends.
Which, if I'm honest, they were both surprisingly good. But the Mustang was just that bit better.
So, the Mustang is one up.
But now we're going to make these cars feel much more at home, because if there's one thing that Yank tanks love to do, is to go fast in a straight line.
Torquey V8s and big fat tyres. I can't wait. So, we'll adjourn to our track's 400-metre finish straight.
It's the best of 3 runs to decide which car can put down its 450 horses best.
And I had high hopes for my Mustang, because it's got a nifty little trick up its sleeve. What you have to do is to get into the drag racing mode. Aha. Drag strip mode combines launch control with a softening of the rear dampers, which allows the back end to squat and maximise acceleration. Would it work? Well, I was about to find out.
press middle mode, launch control. OK, press that.
He's got the look of an old man with a brand new high-tech device, so he can't work it out.
RPM, OK. And whoa! Now I can go from anywhere from 3,000 to 5,500 for your launch control settings.
Now, I've got none of that drag strip nonsense. What I've got is what you really want in a test like this, and that's more pulling power. Tiff's got 527 newton meters of torque, but I've got 617, and that's going to make the difference in this sort of test. Oh, and let's not forget, I'm the equivalent of Tiff and a kid lighter.
Drag strip, ready to go.
So, Noodles, have you set up all your gizmos?
I'm gizmoed to go, son.
All I have is being able to control my right foot.
Oh dear, I can choose a launch control from between 3,000 and 5,500 revs. I've tried 5,000 for my first launch.
Right, well, I am ready, but what I've got to make sure is I don't get too much wheel spin, because that will be the killer.
5,000 revs. Too much wheel spin.
I might have jumped the start.
A, you jumped the start. A, you jumped the start. It's not 3, 2, go. It's 3, 2, 1, go. The go is after the 1, right?
I was between the 1 and the go.
Yes, you were between the 1 and the go.
Yeah.
I'm going to try 4,000 revs.
I knew it.
My Mustang was suffering from too much wheel spin at the start. Maybe dialing back the launch control would help.
4,000. No, I'm going to go 4,200. About halfway.
OK, I'd nipped the starter touch, but I'd won by miles. So I'm calling that 1-0. Meanwhile, over in Stangland...
Look at him, he's folded his wing mirrors in to reduce the drag. He's so competitive.
We're away! That was a great start by the plato there.
Oh, useless launch control. It's useless.
This is quite a bit quicker. So that's 2-0 to the Chevrolet Camaro.
I'm relying on launch control that's letting me down.
And also, you're heavier, remember? But that's in normal mode. I haven't set anything up. That's impressive, eh?
I tell you what. Give me one more chance. I'm going to turn that blooming launch control off, and same as you, just do a manual start.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's got to be better.
all right. One more go.
Don't try and outrun me. Don't try and outrun me.
OK, I'd already lost, but I wanted the Mustang to get a bit of dignity back and out-drag the Camaro at least once.
Have you worked out your technology yet?
I've switched it all off for this one that doesn't count. I'm taking you on head-to-head, mano a mano. Forget this flipping launch control, which has let me down. I reckon about 5,000 revs, a bit of clutch slipping, get the revs up, get the power in. I'm going to nail you.
It's going old school. Well, very much like we are in this one.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, no, I've got too much wheel spin and he's gone again.
And he can talk all he likes. I am away.
I'd tried everything and been thrashed each time. By any other standards, the Mustang is quick, but it simply couldn't match the Camaro.
Yeah, it means nothing.
What do you
Drag
mean?
racing.
What do you mean?
It means nothing.
It's a test.
1-1. It'll all be down to the track driving.
Join us later for the finale when we put our American bruisers against the clock to find out which can set the fastest lap.
I'm really impressed with this.
Next, modification master Jimmy is going to show you another quick, simple fix that will transform your car.
Today I've got my hands on a Vauxhall Corsa VXR. This version was made from 2007 to 2014 and may be under the radar for many hot hatch lovers. But it shouldn't be, because this car delivers proper performance thrills, yet even the most recent 5-year-old models can now be yours for just £6,000. So, it's a proper performance bargain. This 2012 Corsa VXR really is a fun little car, and with 190 horsepower under the bonnet, it made a lot of young drivers feel like proper racers. However, that doesn't mean it can't be improved. This one is for all those VXR owners who have moved out of mum and dad's house, grown up a little bit, and want their Corsa to do the same. And by growing up, I mean giving the VXR more power. And the way I'm going to achieve that is by upgrading the car's turbo. Turbos are popular because waste gas that would otherwise just escape out of the exhaust is made to do something useful.
I shall now try to simply explain how a turbo works. Wish me luck. OK, essentially, you have two fans connected by a shaft. Now, hot expanding exhaust gases come through the manifold, spinning the fan on this side. And this drives the fan in here, the compressor. That sucks in clean air from atmosphere, compressing it and forcing it into the cylinder. Once you've got more air in the cylinder, you can put in more fuel, and that's going to give you a bigger bang, which equals more power.
And fitting a bigger one to the Corsa should result in around 40 more horsepower, which is a massive gain for a car this size. Now, I just stated that this car has 192 brake horsepower, but that was when it was brand new. Time takes its toll on engines, and the power output invariably falls. So, to find out what this car is producing today, I'm going to put it on a rolling road.
Now, a rolling road works by putting the car, surprising enough, on two rollers. These give resistance to the wheels which are turning. That resistance is torque. Now, we times that against the RPM of the engine, and that gives us brake horsepower, exactly what I need to find out.
After securing the car in place, it's driven at various speeds, and the results recorded on a computer. A large fan replaces the airflow the engine would get if it was being driven along the road.
Right, Dave, the all-important results.
Right, Jimmy, here's your paragraph.
That's great, there you go. OK, so this graph shows me that the car has a max brake horsepower of 164 at 5,950 RPM.
So, after 7 years of hard driving, engine wear has cost the Corsa 28 horsepower. Hopefully, my turbo fix will get all that performance back and more. Time to get back to the workshop. This may seem like a scary job, but not if you break it down into simple steps. The first task is to drain the oil from the engine.
To do this job, I put the car up on the ramp to make it easier for you to see, but you could do exactly the same job at home, just using a couple of axle stands and a trolley jack. Right, oil out.
Make sure you've got a big enough container under the sump plug, as there will be a lot of oil coming out. And removing the oil filter can get messy, so make sure you've got some old rags or a big roll of paper towel to hand.
Now that the old oil and filter have been removed, there's two jobs I need to do underneath the car. That's remove the turbo drain pipe and disconnect the intercooler pipe.
This involves unscrewing a couple of circular hose clips and tucking the pipe out of the way.
Before I can remove the turbo, first thing I need to do is remove all the components that are in the way.
Coolant pipes, dipstick and air filter are all easy to remove, but things get a touch more fiddly at this point.
In every job you do with a car, you always find there's one job that's particularly tricky. This one's it. The air inlet pipe for the turbo, the two bolts that hold it on, are an utter pain to get to.
Nothing I'm doing here is rocket science or requires any specialist tools. It's just that you need to be patient.
This turbo is both water-cooled and oil-cooled, so I need to disconnect both the oil feed pipe and the water feed pipe.
The next job is to remove the turbo, which is bolted to the exhaust manifold, the bit that funnels all the combusted gas from the cylinders. The manifold is secured by 9 bolts, but again, a bit of perseverance is all that's needed.
One old turbo out. Now the old and the new turbo are side by side, we can see the differences. The old one has a small bore, whereas the new one has a larger bore and a bigger fan. Now that's going to force more air into the cylinder, which is going to give me more power. This turbo kit, complete with new manifold, cost me £1,200. Now, I accept that that's a lot of money, but trust me, it's going to make my 7-year-old Corsa better than new. The new turbo comes with a new exhaust manifold. And as the turbo kit I ordered is specific to the Corsa VXR, it fits the car exactly. You'll also need a new exhaust manifold gasket, which seals the manifold to the cylinder head, as the old one can't be reused. This turbo upgrade can be applied to many cars, and other bespoke kits are available. And because the fitting process will be slightly different, you'll need to go online for a bit of guidance. With the manifold and turbo now installed, it's time to refit the pipes, dipstick and filter under the bonnet. Then you need to jack the car up again to reconnect the intercooler and drain pipes to the bottom of the turbo. And make sure you fit a new oil filter. These only cost a tenner. It's also really important that you change your sump plug. This is the last bit, and if that oil seal leaks, your oil's going all over the motorway. Bad times. And finally, with everything sealed, it's time to add fresh coolant and oil. Make sure you don't mix the two up. Job done. All I need to know now is what difference I've made to the Corsa's power. So it's back to the rolling road. Come on, Dave, what have we done?
That's a good result, Jim.
That is a good result. So we start off with 164 brake horsepower, and we've now achieved 201. That's an increase of nearly 40 brake horsepower. This mod took me a handful of hours to do. It cost me £1,200 and has given me a performance increase of over 20%. Bang for buck. This has got to be a mod worth doing. So what difference would the new turbo make on the road? Well, immediately I can feel the difference in this VXR, because that turbo has just got an edge now. It's really feeling like it's lost some flab. It's got some teeth in its bite now. Come on, VXR.
After the break, it's 1-1 in our Mustang versus Camaro muscle car dogfight. So now we move on to the decider, a flat-out lap around the track.
Oh, feisty stuff.
Welcome back to the conclusion of our muscle car dogfight.
We're putting the Mustang GT and Camaro V8 through their paces to find out whether the Americans can finally build sports cars us Brits rate and might actually buy.
And of the two, where your 40 grand would be better spent.
So far, we've held a cornering contest and both cars did surprisingly well, though the Mustang just edged it.
That was better.
16.7.
Then we let the V8s loose in a straight line. Both have plenty of get up and go. However, this time the Camaro took the honours. With a 3-0 whitewash.
So it's 1-1.
But if the Americans are serious about tempting us out of our BMW M machines and AMG Mercs, then these cars have got to prove to us they've got the poise, grip and stopping power to handle a demanding circuit.
And while we're at it, we'll get the stopwatch out and decide which of these two is the best.
It's one flying lap. Tiff's going first while I hang on in the passenger seat.
So what do you think of my Mustang on board? Do you like my aluminum dash panel, eh?
I do like it, actually.
Nice steering wheel.
The sound of this, bear in mind we've both got V8s, the sound of this one is a bit more muted and a bit more deep in the car. This is a better chassis.
Oh, you mean you're worried already, then? You're worried already.
Do I need to worry? Let's start the hot lap and find out.
Here we go, let's on that shadow. Oh, straight to the change-up noise. Oh, God, here we go. Oh, it turned in a bit early then, Tim.
Yeah, I like getting up on that curb. Bit of the exit. I never know how quick to go to this sort of whoa.
She got the move there, didn't she?
Now this is the corner I don't like. You've got to go in deeper than you think, I think. Then cut back, then nail it. Not run wide, crest over there. Oh,
God almighty. Do you know what it is with you in the car? It's all the noises you make that upset me. It's all your...
What have you had for lunch? Feeding a very good steak
mental.
pie. Oh,
Lost a bit there.
and look how flat it corners. Oh, it's amazing, really. It corners beautifully flat.
Man, I'm amazed how hard you're on the throttle.
I know, getting nailing.
It's got good traction, hasn't it?
Yeah, everything's switched on. Like the gearbox, nice little stubby gear change. These Americans, they're showing the Europeans how to make nice cars. I mean, the understeer, they're safe, steady. I'd like a little less understeer. The nose doesn't quite get in there.
So you're on full power there, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's really good. I'm really impressed with this. This is good.
Brake pedal theme.
Oh, you fighter. You've lost a bit of time there, kid.
And the time.
23.1.
So the Mustang kicks things off with 1 minute 23.1 seconds.
Time for me and my Camaro.
See what I mean about the noise? It's more harsh in here, don't you think?
It seems sort of, it feels faster than the Stang, but it's more fidgety. Not
See,
such a
I'm
good
not
change.
as committed through here and on the power.
Yeah, you're not nearly as relaxed as I was,
No.
are you? You're working hard.
Yeah, understeer there.
Yeah.
The problem is that the only way to get it to turn is get on the throttle.
Right then, JP, you're warmed up. Let's see a lap time in this. Camaro. Can you beat at 23.1? You don't feel too confident about it. That's where you head for the line to.
Right, here we go.
Brakes feel good. You're staying in third gear
Yeah,
then.
third gear here. Going to use the traction.
Oh, use your extra torque. Be good to use the track as well, Jason, not the curves. I know what you touring car drivers are like. Now you're in fourth.
Yeah.
All feisty stuff. So you've got lower gears.
There we get under power there. See, just the understeer's killing me a bit there.
No,
I thought I'd bitten off too much there.
That's a stupid line you take.
Oh, we've caught the curve a bit there.
Can you not buy one with the steering wheel on the right side? Because I'm feeling a bit strange. That I think
you're distracting me now. Stop it.
It hops and hops and hops. It's pretty uncomfortable. Oh, it doesn't like getting the power.
No, I can't get on the power. I've got to feed it in gently.
Oh,
come on, understeer.
No idea. It sort of feels faster because it's sort of all hyperactive, but I've got a feeling it's not going to be faster. 23.1 to beat as he heads for the line and stops the clock at... Oh.
What is it? What is it? What is it?
Bit
What
faster.
Yes, much to Tiff's annoyance, I'd hustled the Camaro round over 2 seconds quicker.
Wow.
Than the Mustang.
In spite of feeling a lot more nervous on the limit, the Chevy's lighter weight and extra torque had beaten the better balanced Mustang.
So, the Camaro takes the honours in our head-to-head. But the bigger message here is that America is now building muscle cars that are not only huge fun, but can genuinely perform even around corners. Germany, watch out! The Yanks are coming.